do like some chocolate covered pretzels. So
All right, guys, welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How's it going today?
Oh, Willie, pretty good, man. Pretty good. It's a couple days before Thanksgiving. It's cold. It's rainy here.
Holy
I don't have any
shit.
more hair, so
Yeah, you're Walter White in it.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, I
love that.
am. Yeah, I just was, I'm 39 years old, and I was thinning on the top, and I'm not going to be the guy that combs it over. I refuse. So,
Though you're bringing
yeah,
sexy back with the hair now.
well,
So, yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I didn't realize it until you said it, but yeah, it is Thanksgiving week. And it's
yeah,
kind of funny because we got lots to talk about today in episode 63, our Too Early for a Christmas Tree episode.
yeah. Our
So,
podcast can almost retire at this
yeah,
point.
that's a question. So we're not sure, but
Yeah.
we're figuring it out. So, but as we look at things, listen, we're going to cover a lot of the awards today from Major League Baseball. We're going to tip into Week 12 of the NFL as we are now seeing the window for some NFL teams closing, and I guess you could say others opening in terms of selecting in the draft towards the top of the draft, right?
Mm.
But we're gonna have some fun today. So, without further ado, let's hop into Major League Baseball with the AL Cy Young Award with Tariq Skubal, Detroit Tigers, baby. So first,
Yeah. No,
nice job.
that was I felt like most of these awards in my brain were chalk, like went chalk,
Yeah.
minus the Rookie of the Year awards, which we'll talk about. And I kind of was a little miffed on AL Manager of the Year award.
Yep.
But again, we'll talk about that. But yeah, Terry Skubal was if he wasn't the unanimous Cy Young, I was gonna have take issue with the one person who didn't vote that.
Right,
So
right. And there's
yeah,
always one guy. It's weird. Like there's always that one person that's like, "Oh, like I need to be convinced." And I don't know. Weirdly enough, him and the NL Cy Young Award winners numbers were almost identical.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
crazy how close they were to each other. Um,
yeah.
but but playing for the Tigers, he was a big reason that they made the playoffs this year.
Absolutely. He was like, especially down the stretch when Detroit went on that run after August. Like he was the reason. Like,
I also he showed up in the postseason minus the grand slam that he gave up. Which
yeah,
was really unfortunate. You kind of feel for him, but up until that point in the playoffs, and I know everyone can make that argument, like until a certain point, but he had a couple starts in the playoffs before that he was exactly the same guy that he was during the regular season. So,
yeah,
and I think he's going to go into the offseason with that fresh in his mind that like I need to get back to who I was during the
yeah.
regular season. So,
And you kind of like if you go back to the not last season but the season before, the second half of the 2023 season,
yeah.
in the second half he had like an ERA of like under 3, and he was like starting to get it back together, and he was finally healthy,
Mhm.
and like you saw flashes of it, and I didn't expect this. I knew he was good, but like
Mhm.
I just didn't expect this from him. And I was like, oh, okay. And Detroit now is like a team on the rise. Like that's like
Well,
this is a very important offseason for them.
Well, I,
It's
I
like,
think so. And I'm glad you brought that up because I've been reading articles lately about them maybe offering him a very low number to extend him. And that didn't
yeah,
feel good to hear because I feel like for a team that needs a guy like that, you can't have any bad press around like offerings for him. Right? Like if
I
you're going to
agree.
attract more people in, you got to be able to get this contract or this extension done.
I agree. I think that like part of that is like the guy did have Tommy John surgery in the last couple years.
Yep.
So like I think they were like maybe we can still get him kind of on the cheap. And I wouldn't I wouldn't fuck around if I were Detroit.
No.
Like Everybody in Detroit loves him. Like, don't do this.
No.
Like,
You
yeah,
gotta lock this guy up. And Detroit, not just in Major League Baseball, but Detroit seems like a city on the rise for professional sports too.
yeah,
They've had success in the past, not necessarily in baseball. It's been many years since that, but uh, they have like now they're starting to get that vibe. Like think about football; they were awful for years. And now
yeah,
they're getting the reputation like, yeah, it's playoffs are running through Detroit, or
yeah,
they're going to have a say in that. So,
yeah. That AL Central next year is gonna be nuts.
yeah,
Like Cleveland's gonna be good again. Kansas City's already making moves,
Chicago, I feel
trading
like
for
is
Jonathan.
going to do something, right?
Yeah, I mean they can't be any worse than last year. Like statistically,
Well,
that's just not possible.
but you were saying Cleveland made a move already.
Kansas City already
Kansas
trading for
City.
Jonathan India
Yeah.
from, which is a good second baseman from Cincinnati. Like that's, and they didn't really have to give up much. Like this division is going to be a lot of fun to watch again next year. I think
Hmm.
so.
Which is weird
Yeah.
because it feels like that's not something you would have said in previous seasons.
No,
Yeah.
no. The joke is always somebody legally has to win this division. Yeah.
Now it's going to have to be a different division that we say that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll focus on the NL Central for that. So,
Maybe.
or the maybe
Oof.
the AL West. So you
Mm.
never know. But in the NL, Chris Sale wins the Cy Young Award, which I know is like brutal, but you knew it was coming, right? Like it just.
You know what conversation sticks in my mind, and I think we talked about this on an early episode, that I was like making fun of you because I was like, man, is the Chris Sale you're gonna get is like he's only gonna pitch half the season,
Yeah.
uh, and a lot of times it's gonna be the second half of the season because he's hurt in the first half.
Hmm.
And the kick in the pants out of all of this, like my favorite part about this is that the Red Sox paid most of his salary this year.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
They paid $17 million of his salary this year. It was
You,
great. Love that.
I think we talked about this on like a previous episode, but there was an article that I read on ESPN that talked about like him coming back and if he was going to win the Cy Young this year, that he may have pitched himself this year into the Hall of Fame. And I was listen, I was a little concerned about it, but the numbers that they were showing against other Hall of Fame pitchers, his were very similar too. And that's something that was a little bit surprising to me. Now, I think he's going to have to do more to be able to do that, but to see him come back
Yeah.
and have the success that he had this year has to be not only very encouraging for the club, but also for him personally. A guy that's battled injuries as long as he has, what, for the last 3-4 seasons, and then
Yeah.
to finally get back and have a season that he did this year where Atlanta really needed to test his back strength, right? They lose Strider. He has to step up and be that dude where you don't know if he can be anymore. He clearly thought he could, but you didn't know. You thought maybe Freed was going to be that guy or maybe someone else in the rotation. And he really grabbed the bull by the horns and said, no, I'm going to be the ace on this staff.
Yeah. Led the majors in ERA, like led the National League in wins and strikeouts.
Yeah.
Like that's
He was really
there's
good
not
this
much
year.
that really he kept Atlanta in that race for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then like unfortunately, like he got hurt at the worst possible time.
I'm not sure Atlanta was trending in the right direction when he got hurt.
No.
But it is unfortunate that it happened right at the beginning of the playoffs. It's frustrating to see that because this is your ace. This is the guy you needed to depend on. Do they win one more game in that series? Maybe with him out there. I think you got a better chance of it. But, the fact that they were there really was surprising to me because most teams, you take out your two best players, it's going to be really tough for you to compete at that point. And they were still able to string it together. Snecker, you get my vote. So it's
I'm shocked he didn't get more votes for manager of the year based on the job he did with the talent that was missing from that roster.
Right? Kind of surprising.
Like,
And I know Strider's probably not going to be back at the beginning of next year. They think Acuna might, but even if he comes in a month later, 2 months later, like they're going to have him for the majority of the season.
I bet you see Strider in June. I would imagine like they're gonna let him like kind of iron out some wrinkles in the first couple months,
Yeah.
and then I think you'd see him like right before the break, the All Star break.
I mean, when he's on too, it's nasty. And if you've got two guys like him and
Yeah.
Sale in this rotation, it could be lethal for teams.
Spencer Strider last year was somebody in 2023. He was somebody that if I knew he was pitching, I would turn on MLB TV to watch his start
Yeah.
because I was like, cool, how many guys is he going to strike out?
Yeah.
20? Like that was always in play with him.
Yeah.
With the stuff that he has. So
really, really cool. So best of luck
yeah.
to Chris Sale next year. By the way, the Red Sox, I don't think they pay any of his salary next year.
No, because he signed an extension with Atlanta.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So very happy to have that, but I wish him the best of health going forward, and I know you don't. So
No, I honestly, it was cool to see him succeed.
yeah,
It just sucked because like we got a taste of it in 2018 with him, and
Yeah.
like when he was on,
yep,
and him striking out Machado the way he does to end that World Series. I sometimes watch that clip when I'm sad, and it makes me it gives me great joy and happiness.
yeah, and a few
Because
giggles.
because again, you know my stance on Manny Machado. Fuck Manny Machado.
Yep, yep.
And yeah. So
Well, let's talk about a guy that you don't dislike terribly. I don't
no.
think you do. AL MVP, Aaron Judge. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, not surprised. Like
Okay.
I would have Bobby Witt Jr. like any other year, the season that he had would have won MVP.
Right? Right? Like,
And like he kind of,
oh.
I thought he was gonna make a dent in the voting at the end because like Judge went cold in September.
Yes, he did.
And Witt was dragging Kansas City to the playoffs.
Mhm.
Like, but no, I mean Judge had a season which it's insane. Like,
Yeah.
and like he's on a list now too. Like Judge has 2 MVPs, and he's in a rarefied air of Yankees that have won 2 MVP awards,
Yeah.
and every other one of them are pretty much Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So
Yep, that's going to be he's going to make it very difficult to well, he's already had the home run seasons, right? Where he's hit a
yeah,
lot of homers and stuff. So I think for him it's kind of going to be refining the other aspects of his game to try to make him, that great player and put him in that rarefied air. But you're
yeah.
right, like 2 MVPs, that's very tough to it's
Can
kind of the same argument with Eli, right? That you
yeah.
look at. Uh-huh.
Can I read the list of like Yankees players that have won 2 MVPs?
Sure,
For
I'd
the
love to
Yankees?
hear him.
Because the only one that's not going to make there's only one that's not going to make the Hall of Fame, and it's A-Rod. For the reasons,
Yeah, we know. Yeah,
yeah.
that's.
But the other ones besides Judge,
Mhm.
Roger Maris.
Oh,
All right, Roger Maris didn't make the Hall of Fame, but like Roger Maris is pretty well regarded.
yeah.
Like
Actually,
Lou
until
Gehrig,
you just said that right now, I'm shocked that he's not.
he didn't have the longevity, and he
Yeah.
like minus the he had 2 really good seasons, but
Mhm.
minus that, like he was kind of an average hitter.
Okay.
Like
I just you
uh
hear his name synonymous with like one of the greats of all time,
yeah.
and it's I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think that, but
If you
okay.
want to watch Yeah, real quick, if you want to watch a good Roger Maris movie, Billy Crystal did this movie called 61.
61. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
really good.
Okay.
Lou Gehrig,
Yep.
okay, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle,
Pretty good.
yeah, allegedly, yeah. Joe
Yeah.
DiMaggio and Yogi Berra. They've all at least won an MVP twice.
Wow.
So
Okay. Well,
pretty gnarly list. And
yeah.
that goes into what's wild is Aaron Judge is the reason that Shohei Ohtani doesn't have 4 straight MVP awards.
Oh. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah. He's
Um,
because Ohtani's won 3 of the last 4 MVP awards. And the
which
only
is
year he didn't win it was because
insane to think
Aaron
about.
Judge hit 62 home runs, and
Yeah.
you had to give it to him. Like,
That
yeah.
is insane too to think about that like he's won 3 out of 4 years. That's how many
Mhm.
guys have done that? I mean, it's
And all 3 of his have been unanimous. Fun fact.
that's also an interesting thing as we segue into him, right?
Yeah,
Because
not much to say.
he won in the NL. I mean, he's just I don't know. I feel like if Otani is synonymous with must-watch baseball at any point in
Mhm.
time, like in this generation, there's just you have to watch this guy to fully appreciate what he's able to do. Um,
Yeah.
he didn't. It's funny. I saw you saw the meme. I know I sent it to you about like he was the first guy to get carried in a group project. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, okay, but he didn't need to be an MVP in the World Series for the Dodgers to win. Freddie Freeman took care
Yeah.
of that. But very interesting to see, I don't think there was any way you could vote for anybody else in the NL.
No. No. In the same thing, if somebody tried getting cute, and like no offense to Francisco Lindor, who had an insane season,
Yeah,
if anybody tried voting for anybody other than Otani, I would have been like, what the hell?
strip their privileges, right? Like it's
Yeah, because
yeah.
this is the problem you see every year, and I guarantee you're going to see this because this is the same thing you see in the Hall of Fame. There's only been one unanimous Hall of Famer ever, and it was Mariano Rivera. And like Ichiro's going in this year, and like he's not going to get. I guarantee you, somebody's not going to vote for him,
That's
and I
so
hate that.
yeah,
I hate that.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
you know what I see the same thing happen when it comes to voting for MVP awards in the NFL. Where someone feels
yeah,
like or the NBA as well, right? Someone they have recency bias or like both ways, right? Negative and positive where they feel like, "Oh, this person's won it before, so we need to pick somebody different," or "Yeah, I can't vote for that guy because like they won one 2 years ago or whatever." It's like,
yeah,
no, just focus on exactly what your job is. That's to vote for the person that deserves the MVP award. That's it.
yeah.
Right? It's just I don't know. But anything else you wanted to say about Otani?
Not much to say. I think that what I loved about Otani this season is that he got casual fans involved in baseball, which makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
Like it just yeah. And a lot of times him playing on the West Coast meant like staying up late. But like I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I'll throw on the Dodgers for a little bit. And I always just saw Otani do something nuts.
Not for
Like,
people in Japan. All they had to do
yeah,
was wake up early. And now it seems like, and I could be wrong about this, because there have been players from Japan that have been coming over almost every year, but I feel like now they're starting to get some of the more high profile players out of the Japanese league, where it's
yeah,
like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every year you're going to hear about a new star that's coming over. Um, and I feel like he's really paved the way. Obviously, Ichiro before him, but,
yeah.
it just,
Honestly, if you want to give flowers to somebody, you got to give it to Hideo Nomo.
yeah, I mean,
It
and
he
that's
came
that's
over and
going back, right?
yeah, but like he's the first like Japanese player to win Rookie of the Year, and he won it in '95, and like he he's kind of the guy that made it possible for guys like Otani and Ichiro to like come over
Best windup of all time.
because without him, like it hadn't really that wasn't really a thing, and yeah,
You remember how high
yeah,
he used to get his knee and that like
oh yeah,
delivery to
that
the plate?
windup,
It was
oh yeah,
wild. It was
he
I
pitched for the Red Sox for a season, and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
great.
Yep.
Yeah, threw a no hitter in his first start with the Red Sox.
I
Fun
did
fact.
not realize that.
Yeah, against
Uh,
Baltimore.
my
Yep.
goodness. I know it wasn't all uphill or all good from then on out, but to
No,
start with that,
no.
definitely a good thing. So, AL Rookie of the Year.
Okay, yeah, this is where actually, you know what? I'm okay with Luis Gill winning this.
Okay.
I thought this through. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't. I have a problem with the National League voting, but like we'll talk about that in a second. But like, to be honest with you, Gill pitched. He's the reason the Yankees. He carried the Yankees for pitching this year. Like he
Hmm.
did. Like Cole was out like really the first few months of the season,
Yep.
and like it was really kind of Gill just kind of carrying him. So
Especially when it seemed like I don't know. It seemed like, and I could be wrong about this, but from like beginning of June on, they were always within like 3 or 4 games of Baltimore on both
yeah,
sides, right? Like the whole year. I don't know how like neither one of them finally pulled forward and were like, okay, we got this. It just back and forth, and then at the end, the Yankees seemed to take it, but it was just I don't know back and forth all year. I definitely think he deserves it. I was scratching my head to try to figure out who else I would have voted for.
honestly, you could have given it to Colton Cowser as well.
Mm,
To be honest with you, like I was okay with either of them.
okay.
Like Cowser, like I think where he probably got dinged. Guy, I mean, guy hit 243, which not great, but like also he played in a really like loaded lineup.
Hmm.
So, and I think voters kind of dinged him for that.
which is he has
So,
no control over.
no,
Right.
no, you're right.
Uh-uh.
But like I said, he still had a hell of a season. He's a really good outfielder for them. And like the Baltimore farm system just keeps on churning, man.
Yeah.
Keeps on churning.
All right. Well,
So,
I'm going to give you a chance to talk about the NL Rookie of the Year, Paul
okay.
Skeens.
I get that Paul Skeens is a celebrity. I get that. I get like what he did was like you hadn't really been done before. I just and I get that like Paul Skeens got like casual viewers again to kind of really tune in this season, especially because he started the All-Star game, pitched an inning, struck out a couple. Like I get all those things, but to me, like Jackson Merle was the guy.
Hmm.
Like he was a big reason the Padres were so goddamn good this year. Like I and the voting kind of reflected it. It was the voting was kind of close. Uh but like I mean like Paul Skeens got most of the first place votes, but
Hmm.
like man, like I don't know, man. Like that just and it's wild because Paul Skeens was a finalist for the Cy Young this year, and it's like that's no, like, and it's not because no, I don't know. Like, sure, he was really good for the Pirates, but like, I don't know, man. Like, he didn't really. He had a big impact on baseball, but like not on the Pirates. Like, the Pirates sucked.
Yeah.
Like, he was
I,
the bright spot of the Pirates.
do you think that part of the reason people get like starry-eyed when he's throwing triple digits is that you think they're blinded by that or
Blinded by that mustache.
yeah. Well, I just
I
feel like
respect it.
I mean he throws a lot of pitches over 100, so
Yeah,
like it just I feel like that kind of sways people as well to be like, oh my god, he's unbelievable because of that, but it's not necessarily like I don't know.
yeah. Well, like it kind of like I wasn't alive for this, but like from everything I've read, it kind of like reminded me of reading about like Fernando Mania in
Mhm.
'81, where
Yeah.
like Fernando Valenzuela came in and just like set the league on fire, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what this felt like. Weird, goofy dude that was like in pitched in the armed services like academy, and then like pitches at LSU. Famous girlfriend, has a fun mustache,
Yeah.
kind of comes in throwing triple digits, and like doesn't come up till May. Like,
Yeah.
and because the Pirates did the classic, hey, we're gonna call you up kind of late for us for another year of control.
Yep.
And yeah, he was kind of lights out, and like he pitched really well. I think for me, I think Jackson Merrill just I think had more of an impact for his team
Mhm. Do you think
because especially with the Padres who got rid of Juan Soto to start the year.
do you think he got dinged too because of the lineup he plays with?
I think a little bit, yeah. And I'm gonna say a thing a lot of times. Like I think that players that play on West Coast teams, you like unless you're like me who's staying up on a Tuesday night to watch like a Dodgers Padres game, like not everybody's watching those.
East Coast voters on West Coast games.
Yeah,
It's tough, man. It really is.
yeah,
And it happens in almost every league, which is kind of sad. Um,
yeah.
but AL Manager of the Year.
This is where I have a big issue. I
Okay.
No offense to Stephen Boy. I think that like what he did this year was great. I just like Matt Quattro of the Royals, man. Like, look, the Royals lost 106 games last season, and they won 86 games this year. Like, that's a huge turnaround.
Yeah.
I just, I honestly thought that vote was going to be closer. Yeah. To be honest with you, like, I'm shocked that AJ Hinch didn't get like more votes.
Yeah, that was a little surprising because they weren't that good the year before either. But like
No.
you're right, the Royals losing that many games and then to turn around and have the season they did and like again, it needs to be mentioned, you kind of hinted at that at the beginning of the year. Listen, this is don't be surprised. Like they got some guys that know how to play baseball. Don't be surprised if something happens with them this year.
Yeah. 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 Like, I get why people voted for Stephen Voigt of Cleveland. I get it. really thought like Quattro of the Royals was going to win. I really did.
Mhm.
Like I just assumed that like everything that he did with that team, like because that team like had a lot of dudes that could play baseball, but minus like Bobby Witt Jr. Like they didn't have like a superstar,
Right.
and like he did everything right with that team. He pulled every lever manageable possible, and like the Royals were in that series against the Yankees for a little while too,
I
in
know,
the
it was
ALDS.
scary,
Like
right?
yeah,
Ugh.
and like yeah, they took care of business against Baltimore in the wild card round. Like they did everything right, and
Mhm.
it was I don't know, it was a really fun run to see. So
Yeah. What about the
yeah.
NL?
I'm cool with Pat Murphy because that guy lost Kristen Yelich halfway through the year. Their closer Devin Williams wasn't really that effective this year, and it was kind of bullpen by committee.
Mhm.
And they crushed everyone this year. Like they won the NL Central comfortably.
Yeah, very comfortably. Actually, I'm pretty sure were they the first team to clinch?
They were one of the first teams. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It didn't end up in the postseason that well for them, but the fact that they were able to do what they were able to, you're right, without Yelich is a
yeah.
big deal. And then you know what's interesting too, and I mean it's no secret that you need to have a front office that's on the same page as the manager. Teams that do that, you look at successful teams across every sport. Uh, the GM being in good communication with the head coach or the manager,
Yeah.
and having an owner that also supports them and understands their vision, their mindset, all of that stuff, it matters, man. It really does. So like,
And yeah, and you see it with Milwaukee all the time. Like they always just calling dudes up that are like cool. Like you're like, cool, here's another good, really good player that we have. Like
mhm.
they just have a really good and like because they're always winning, they're not getting like high draft picks. They're just their farm system and their development system are just really good. Like they really do a good job with that.
Well, and I think that the reason I brought that up too was like you look at the job, Matt Arnold wins executive of the year for them, and
Yeah.
it's you need to understand the right pieces. Like it's funny, like when I was a kid thinking about baseball, I was like, oh man, when the Braves get Kenny Lofton, like no one will beat them. But
I remember that. I remember that year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kenny Lofton was so great with the Indians because he fit that lineup perfectly. Perfectly.
Yeah.
He was not the same fit with the Braves. Not only was he older, but he just was not the same fit with them that I thought, "Oh, it's going to be the same statistics if not better coming to the Braves." And it was never that way, man. It was never that way. So you just assume very much like, the movie Miracle. If you put all the All-Stars together, you assume you're going to have an All-Star team, but really
Yeah.
a bunch of college kids sometimes get the job done, right? So,
Yeah. And nobody thought that Milwaukee was going to win the Central to start the year. Like I didn't. Like
uh,
I just kind of assumed it was going to be Cardinals or Cubs. Like
Yeah, I thought Cincinnati might have an outside chance, but I'm pretty sure I picked the Cardinals to win it.
yeah,
But it just
yeah.
very interesting the way things kind of shake out. Were there any awards that we didn't mention that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think that like I said, like I think the voters did a pretty good job of nailing like who were the best at pretty much everything.
Hmm.
I have some personal like I have some difference of opinion on a couple things, but like I get the why.
Hmm.
Like so yeah, overall they did a pretty good job, like I
Okay.
said.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be interesting next year to see how, like, when we make our picks, like how accurate they are,
yeah.
because I missed on a lot of them this year. So
And things to look out for next year. Otani's pitching again next year. So
yeah, that's a has and could you imagine if he's that good, right? Like if he's that good of a pitcher as well, and he wins MVP and Cy Young. I mean,
that's the only thing that hasn't happened yet. And like if anybody's gonna try it and fuck around and do it, it's gonna be him.
yeah, I mean, you
Because
kind of got to give it to him if he finishes even as like 12-5 and then hits 50 home runs. How do you not give it to the guy, right? Like,
I did I tell you the story of Otani this year and like the stolen bases thing? Like
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
yeah, he was just like looking for something. Like he like had all this energy and didn't know what to do. So he was like, I'm just gonna work on stealing bases.
Yeah. Very
and then
smart.
almost stole 60 of them just
Yeah.
on a whim.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah.
After Acuna just had a ridiculous season, the one prior.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I thought seeing a 40-70 season, I was like, "Cool, I'll never see that again." I never thought that 50-50 was something I would ever see.
No.
Because 40-40 is so rarely done that you're just
Yeah.
like, what Acuna did last year, you're like, "Oh, snap,
No one's doing
yep,
it.
that's an MVP. Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's the last time we'll see something like that."
Well,
And
you
Ohtani's
just
like, "Hold my beer."
yeah, you assume a guy that hits 50 home runs is someone with massive power that doesn't have the ability to steal bases. But
Yeah,
he's figured it out, man. Otani be
yeah.
nimble, Otani be quick.
Like,
Um,
if you told me at some point that Ohtani will do 60-60, I'd be like, "Oh, no, that
I
tracks."
could believe it now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So,
All right, well, let's talk about someone who maybe isn't as agile and can't hit 50 home runs a year. Daniel Jones moving to the NFL. He was released by the Giants.
what a mess.
A
What
mess.
a
I'm
mess.
actually happy for him, just because like it just felt like he fell out of favor with them, and yeah, eventually you just thought it was going to happen. But let me just say one thing before I get your thoughts on it.
Mm,
We've been through this before. Now, I'm not going to compare a guy like Daniel Jones, who many people like. I think McKay had him as like not even a first round talent when he was drafted by the Giants.
Oh, Todd McShay, like, the clip's
Yeah.
been going around again recently where he's like, "Yeah, that guy's a career backup."
Career backup, yeah, and they drafted him in the first round. So it's
Yeah, 6th
I
pick overall.
yeah, I understand that piece, but so he was picked in the first round by the Giants. As you said, 6 overall. There's other quarterbacks that have been drafted very high, like guys that we're seeing have success now in good situations. Right now, I'm not going to say
Yeah.
Daniel Jones has all the intangibles to be these people, but look at the situation Baker's in now, where he's having success, which I love
Yeah.
watching him every week. But Sam Darnold too. Okay, yeah, he's doing Sam Darnold things, as you say, but at the same time, they're still one game back from the Lions in their division, right? Like, so it's
Yeah.
did you look around the NFL? There's nowhere that could use this guy. He could walk into Vegas and honestly, I think be the best quarterback that they have on the roster there.
I agree. From what I've read, what he said, like, he wants to
A playoff
be a
contender, right?
backup for a contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, which cool, man. Like, I get that. Like, you know what's wild to me about that whole situation
Hmm.
is the day he got released, they had dropped him so far down the depth chart that he was playing safety on the scout team.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Let that sink in for a minute. Yeah,
What?
he was demoted to fourth string. Yeah,
Quarterbacks play safety on the
yeah. He
scout
was
team?
playing safety on the scout team because they had nothing else for him. Yeah, yeah.
That's just super disrespectful, man. And this is a guy that they gave $40 million a year to.
And that's when he asked for his release. Like, and
Yeah.
big ups to Daniel Jones because he didn't make a big deal of it.
No, he handled it.
Quietly was like,
Dude, the guy
"Hey,
went to Duke. He's, like he
yeah,
knows optics, like public
yeah,
optics of these things and how he's going to be seen. So I feel like he had a good understanding that like, okay, this may not be it. And his agent, kudos to his agent too for telling him like, hey, listen, handle this the right way and you'll have a shot somewhere else.
yeah,
Don't and you won't. Um,
yeah." And I think the Giants are just like a mess right now because, like,
You know where
okay,
I
so
could see him ending up? Maybe not
oh,
this year. Maybe not this year.
yeah,
Maybe a team takes him as a triple backup or something like that, or a playoff
yeah,
team needs him. You know where I could actually see him going? And
mm.
in the offseason, because I don't think they're going to have both quarterbacks there next year. I could see him going to the Steelers.
Oh, for sure,
And
yeah.
Mike Tomlin just being like, listen, bro, I got you. Like,
The
let's
fact that Mike Tomlin is getting a resurgence from Russell Wilson tells me all I need to know about Mike Tomlin as a coach.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
it's insane. Um,
yeah. Well, I think also the thing that like drives me nuts of the Giants, like what a mess they are, is that okay? So you cut Daniel Jones, that's fine. You signed Drew Lock for a pretty high amount of money for as a backup,
mhm.
and you're like, you know what? Nah, not the best quarterback on our team. Tommy DeVito's your quarterback
Yeah, the Italian Stallion. And then you go out and get beat 30-6 by Tampa Bay this week.
with Baker doing the Tommy Cutlets thing, the celebration in the end zone. What a
And
G!
and
What a
yeah,
G!
he is. And then Malik Neighbors coming out after and being like, okay, like first quarter, nothing, second quarter, nothing, third quarter, we're down 30 nothing. And then you start throwing me the ball. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah,
What can I do at that point? And like, I don't know. They had to make a decision. Like, yeah, Dayball's okay. Like, yeah, he shouldn't be complaining and stuff. It's like, well, someone needs to, dude. Seriously, come on. What is
yeah,
happening? You're making the Cowboys look good right now. Stop doing that. Like
yeah.
this year, I mean, right? Like, I don't know, but it was just you had texted me this early on Sunday, and we're just like, it's a very weird week for football.
Yeah, it really was,
And
man. I watched and you know what? The late games too were just as weird.
yeah. Well, it started, and I laughed that because you just said like the resurgence of Russell Wilson. Like it started on Thursday night, right? Browns and Steelers, and what appeared to be like an NFL classic moment game with the snow was
Yeah,
just Jameis Winston got his NFL films moment that night.
sure did.
Uh,
It,
just
J-
insane.
like what was wild about that game was like, A, I'm a sucker for a good snow game,
Yeah.
but B, like that game was so sloppy, and I couldn't turn away from it.
Well, there's two things I know once the snow starts falling, and
Yeah.
conveniently they're like almost about the same type of person. When
Mhm.
the snow starts falling in games, there's two people that I trust. I mean, Brady's no longer playing, so he's out of it. But
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and Nicholas Chubb.
Yeah.
Those are two dudes
Yeah.
that when it starts snowing, it's like hand them the rock and let them go.
Yeah.
Barkley might be in that conversation now too, but
Right.
I mean,
It was big win for Cleveland. Like they have
yeah,
nothing to really play for.
yep,
But it was just I don't know, like that was cool that like that team was like, hey, we're not gonna let our division rival come in and embarrass us at home.
and
Like they weren't gonna let that happen.
it's good
And
for
good
the
for them.
Bengals. The Bengals were celebrating because they're like, okay, like maybe we do
Yeah.
still have a chance, right? Like they need
Yeah.
teams like that, the Browns, to play spoiler on teams that are in the playoff hunt right now to give them
Yeah.
life. And we could look
And
back weeks from now and be like, "Oh my god, this game set the foundation for that," right?
and this game kind of showed like a national audience, like the Steelers, good story, got to make the playoffs. They're not getting out of round one, like because you have to score more than 20
Yeah,
points.
dude, they're just not scoring touchdowns. It's weird. Like a team that brings in Arthur Smith who's committed to running the ball, and this offensive line loves to push people around and be
Yeah,
physical and run the ball. They just seem to not be able to run the ball when they need to. And I don't get that piece of it. Like it's like,
yeah,
okay, let's run the ball on first down, 2 yards, Najee Harris. Let's run the ball on second down, 1 yard, Najee Harris. Let's throw the ball. Okay, incomplete pass. Let's punt. And
yeah.
and then the next drive, it's like same thing. Two yards on a carry by Najee, 1 yard on a carry, 37-yard catch by George Pickens on the sideline.
Yeah.
And then they just stall out again and kick a field goal. Chris
Yep.
Boswell, but not only has he been amazing in fantasy this year, he's outscored like many round 1 and round 2 picks in fantasy football this year.
He's my kicker in the Bennett League.
Yeah, he's
Like,
ridiculous. He's been
yeah,
carrying your squad this year.
I know.
Yeah, doing some
Like,
heavy lifting from the kicking
hey,
position.
he's part of the resurgence.
He
You
is.
suck dummies.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that you made that plural, by the way.
yeah.
But it's crazy. I don't know. The Steelers, they're gonna have to figure out how to put points up in terms of touchdowns if they're gonna have success in the
And I don't,
playoffs.
and like I think their defense can keep them in it. And like
Yeah.
the key is like they have to win rock fights like they did against Baltimore. I just the level of competition you're going to see in the playoffs, like I don't think that's going to happen. I
Yeah.
just don't.
When you're
Like,
playing against someone like Josh Allen, this is the problem. Teams like even the Bengals and Joe Burrow, the Bills and Josh Allen, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, they score touchdowns. So when they do
Yeah.
that, it puts a lot of pressure on your team. And if your team cannot score touchdowns, it's going to be very difficult for them to compete. Very
Yeah.
difficult. So I don't know. Steelers got to get it figured out.
Yeah. Speaking of teams that can't score touchdowns, the Bears.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, they did. They kind of did
Yeah,
here.
they kind of did, right? Like the Vikings just barely edged them out.
This was the start of me being like, boy, this was the start of like weird games that I watched that
Uh-huh.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
The Vikings are a
like,
good team, right?
like with 22 seconds left, the Bears are down 11. Okay?
Yeah.
Down 11. And they come back and tie it. I again, I just don't know. Like, it was just weird football like that I watched
Yeah.
all day Sunday.
Yep.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Like, I don't know what else to like.
Yeah.
The fact that Justin Jefferson, okay, hear me out. The fact that Sam Darnold threw for 330 yards and Justin Jefferson only had 27 receiving yards and they won
Yeah.
is bonkers. Bonkers. Now,
I
Addison and Hawkinson got most of those yards.
right.
Like between the two of them, they had like 270.
Yep.
Like, but like, yeah, just nuts.
So
Nuts.
like the Bears do a good job of shutting down the star receiver or so who they think is the star, and then the other two guys just go off. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And Caleb Williams played well. Ever since them firing Shane Waldron, like, or not Shane Waldron, whatever their offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
named
it was
Shane.
it
Oh,
was
it
Shane Waldron. Yeah, Shane Waldron. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh yeah.
Embarrassingly so.
Like he seems like he's playing better.
Yeah,
Like,
he does. He seems to have
yeah.
more confidence. They're giving him more opportunity to be better out there. Um,
Matt Eberflus is not a good coach. I think we can all figure that out.
yeah, these defensive minded coaches, like it's I don't know. It seems to just not go right. I don't
Also,
know.
real quick with the Bears, they did this thing. They scored in the fourth quarter and they cut it to 24-16.
Yep.
So you're like, cool, we're going to kick an extra point because then we're only down 7. They went for 2 and it failed.
Yeah. It's just the going for twos are it's just like it's like gambling. Like, okay, let's throw 1,000 on black and see if we got this. And it's like
Shane, I was watching part of this game and we got to that point and I just felt like I was sitting in my apartment alone and I was like, am I being gaslit right now?
yeah,
Is this what's happening?
dude,
Like,
imagine going to your job and you screw something up really bad and you go to your boss and they're like, what the hell happened? And you're like, well, the analytics said that I should do this. And they're like, oh, okay, the analytics. All right. Okay, you're good.
yeah.
No,
I
that's
just felt like I was taking crazy pills.
yeah. Yep.
So it's good.
Ah,
Big win for the Vikings though.
yeah.
And the fact that they're one back of Detroit.
Still one back, dude. Still one
And the
back.
fact that like Detroit's won 9 in a row, and in any other year they would be up in the division by like 4 games.
Yep.
But they have to keep winning.
They have to keep winning, and it's two very different. I feel very different about both of those teams.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
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 The way the NFC playoff landscape has changed, and we'll get to it in a minute, but like the Cardinals going from like the 3rd seed to out of the playoffs now, insane.
Yeah.
Insane the way things have gone. But let's talk about the Cowboys. They beat the Commanders.
This was another game where I just felt like I was crazy.
John Payton turned the game off. And then later at the end, he tells me, he's like, oh my God, they won. So, I mean, Washington, I look at this. Listen, they've lost 3 straight games. Like it doesn't feel good. And I actually felt like in the game, they were like going to win it. I don't know, man. I don't know.
You know what's wild too is like that they were like they're a Hail Mary away from losing 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that's yeah.
And we were talking about this team like, oh, they're here. Like
Yeah.
it feels very different. 1 month feels very different for this
Yeah.
team. Um,
You know who the offensive coordinator is for the Washington, right?
yeah, I do. I do. And they're
Yep.
or they were
And,
talking 3 weeks ago about him getting head coaching positions, and then all of a sudden, like this starts happening.
but this is a Cliff Kingsbury thing, though. Like, if you just like look at the teams he had in Arizona,
Yeah.
the teams at Texas Tech, even last year him at USC, like his teams falter down the stretch,
Yeah.
and this is no different. Like
And
it,
Dan
it
Quinn, I feel like just wanted to give him an opportunity, but like it's something isn't working. Like you're seeing it, and I've noticed it from the stats because Jaden Daniels, I've got him in fantasy. He was running a lot more at the beginning of the year, and he's running
yeah,
less now. And I get that, right? Like you don't want him running, but he was running double digits and they were winning nonstop. But then I also looked and like maybe they were not beating such great teams at the beginning.
yeah.
You know, I don't know, man.
Well, I think what's wild too is like this game got weird in the last 2 minutes. Like this game
Yeah.
got real weird. And like the thing is like McLaurin makes that play where, first of all, let's just talk about for a second. You know what? I'm gonna back up with this game. So the kickoff return where Turpin fumbles it at the one, picks it up, does a spin move 5 yards early that you're like, what the fuck's this guy doing? And then takes it back. I was just like, what am I watching here?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, and then McLaurin is wide open, and you're like, cool. And like, and then I was like, cool, they're just gonna kick the extra point. And then the fact that Washington bungles the extra point, and then the fact that this game ended on an onside kick return touchdown,
Yeah.
which I haven't seen in my lifetime.
No, me neither. Me neither.
I didn't know that was possible.
No, I thought it was dead after that happens.
No, it's a live ball. Yeah. Yeah. Just most people, like when they recover an onside kick, they just fall on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yep.
very
Wild times we're
interesting.
living in, man.
Yeah, it really is, especially this week. Especially this
Yeah.
week. Um World champs, they narrowly beat the Panthers, and I almost was feeling like, what am I watching here, dude?
I thought about you a lot when I like Red Zone kept cutting this game because I remembered last week you were like, yeah, I think this game's gonna be close. Carolina, man. And I
Yeah.
was like, no. And I was like, well, again, I don't know what I am talking about
I
because
don't either, apparently. Like they're world champs, but I'm not paying them enough respect yet. All of a sudden they're going in there and they're getting beat or like not getting beat, but like make it look close. They still win the game, and that's what I think they're great at is like winning those games narrowly, but it still was too close to be like I feel good about this. Who felt better about
yeah.
this game? Let me ask you. The Panthers losing this game or the Chiefs winning?
I I'm gonna be honest with you. If I'm Carolina, there's a lot to take away from this game that looked positive.
Yeah,
Like
against a good team.
you know what happened? Like they just left Mahomes with too much time on the clock, which is it's a cardinal mistake that everybody makes.
Yeah.
Like he went 57 yards in 7 plays in a minute 46, and like
I
yeah,
got it. I got you,
yep,
bro. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and that's the thing is like it's like the boogeyman. Like you just know he's coming, and like there's nothing you can do to stop it. And like
it makes me think that like Andy Reid is playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers.
yeah,
Because he knows what
but
he's got
like
in Mahomes, but like a lot of it comes down to coaching too.
yeah, Bryce Young played well.
Yeah,
Like
he's been looking better, man. He really has. And
yeah,
I'll admit, the last few weeks, I feel like he looks more like an NFL quarterback than I've ever seen him before.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and yeah, it's Kansas City, and they're gonna keep chugging along. But there's that Christmas schedule coming up where they have the 2 games in like 3 days or 4 days, and like,
that's going to be really tough.
and the thing is they have to keep winning because Buffalo, like we were talking about the NFC, it's the same thing in the AFC. Buffalo's right on their heels, and Buffalo owns the tiebreaker over them.
Yeah. They do. Which
So
is going to be very, very interesting. So if they lose another, it's it's almost like losing two games at that point.
yeah,
But man, so this one was kind of strange to me. Another game that just didn't make sense to me. The Titans beat the Texans, and I'm just thinking like, what? And I looked, and like the Titans, not only have they lost 3 out of 4, but two of those losses that they've had were to the Titans and the Jets. And I'm just
yeah,
like, what? Like, I thought the
yeah,
Texans were a good team. Joe Mixon running the ball real well, all of that stuff. And I'm just, I guess we're with recency bias of last year, thinking about CJ Stroud being this ultra good quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. Teams have tape on him this year. He hasn't had that kind of success. Now, he was without Nico Collins for a while. They had some issues along the offensive line. Stephon Diggs was out for the year. So, like, all of this stuff. But Nico Collins is back now.
yeah. That offensive line's not. If you just kind of watch the Texans, like Stroud's kind of like running for his life a lot of the time, and like some of it is just bad offensive line, but some of it is just Stroud just getting trigger happy and just being like, "Well, I gotta go." And it's like, well, if you just kind of stand there for a minute, like there's a play developing, you're just not taking the time. And
I,
like
I, I'm
they
more.
didn't, they ran for 40 yards as a team.
Yeah, which is
Like
not.
that's
You're not going to win games doing
yeah,
that. Now, the Titans are very stout against the run. I'll say that. Like, it's very difficult to run against them. But my concern lies with the defense, man. Like multiple big plays that we're seeing. Like granted, red zone wasn't really showing a ton of this game, but you're
no.
you're you're seeing these big plays and stuff. Like I don't know, man. Like this is not
Tennessee
the
gave up
idea.
8 sacks and they won.
Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah,
Insane, dude.
yeah.
I don't know.
Texas, Houston just really right now, like they're like I think they're gonna win the AFC South.
I'm pretty sure
I-
they are because Jacksonville's awful. The Titans seem to, even though they win this game, that you don't feel any better about them. The Colts just got beat up by. It was closer than I thought. I really
Yeah,
thought Detroit was
yeah.
going to put up 50 on them, but
As somebody that had Jared Goff in fantasy and wondered why he only got me 15 points,
yeah,
believe
I
me,
know, very disappointing.
yeah,
But I don't know. Like you said, legally, someone has to win the AFC South, so
yeah,
um, we'll see what happens there.
yeah,
Uh, the Broncos. Listen, I just wanted to touch on them real quick here. Listen, they're 7-5, but I just can we look at these 5 losses for a second? So Seattle, Pittsburgh, that was the first 2 weeks of the season, and a lot of
yeah,
people were just writing them off at that, like, okay, Sean Payton doesn't know what he's doing. Like this team's garbage. All of this stuff. Like Bo Nix, he's not ready. The game's too fast for him. All of this stuff. Two fairly good teams from what we can see now. Right, we're 12
yeah,
games into the NFL season. Seattle and Pittsburgh seem to be fairly good teams. Not upper echelon, but you could say both have good defenses and both are not leading the division, are they? Is Pittsburgh still leading? Not with
yeah,
Baltimore.
yeah.
Even with
Yeah,
Baltimore. Okay.
yeah. I think they're tied now.
So then
Yeah,
I look at that and I'm like, okay, so Seattle, Pittsburgh, I got it. But then the other 3 losses were to the Chargers, Ravens, and Chiefs, who we can
yeah.
definitely say are going to be playoff teams this year.
Hear, hear me out. And I know that I'm in the minority on this.
Yeah.
I think Denver is just kind of masking as the good bad team. Hear
Really?
me out. Here are their wins. Okay, Tampa, which Tampa's kind of a weird team, and like I don't really know. They seem like they're going to be all right. The Jets,
Yep.
okay, the Raiders,
Yeah.
the Saints,
Yeah.
the Panthers,
Uh-huh.
the Falcons,
Yep.
and the Raiders again.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought up the NFC South because are you ready for this? They have
Oh yeah, they've beat the brakes off of them.
Oh, dude, they've beat them a combined 125 to 37.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
125 points they've scored against the NFC South. That's insane, dude.
And here's the thing: the next 2 weeks, they're playing Cleveland
Yeah.
and they're playing your Colts.
So tell me this team's not going to make the playoffs, man.
They finished the year with Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs, and
Okay.
I
So
I don't know, man.
even if they win say they win the next two games, they're 9-5, right? Say they lose those games, they finish at 9-8. They're gonna make the playoffs, dude. It's gonna happen.
I think they're very much going to be in the hunt.
Yeah.
I
Unless
like
something
they're not going to catch Kansas City.
no.
They're not. But
Maybe
yeah,
they play spoiler in one of those games. They played Kansas City very close last time, and I know that's leaving a bad taste in their mouth. And what's saying Kansas City's even putting their starters out there against them at that point?
yeah, and two, like teams they got to worry about really is Miami, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati, and they play two of them head to head. So like,
I'm just saying, like, and I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I said it right. This team's still a little bit away, right? Like they're
absolutely,
definitely a little bit away. I know you have some appreciation for Cortland Sutton on your fantasy team.
sure
Uh,
do.
this team's still a little ways away. Maybe so some better linemen being able to run the ball better, a playmaker or two away. But Sean Payton might be in consideration for head coach of the year. And the only reason I'm saying that with what he's done, this roster isn't loaded with talent. In the
No,
offseason, they got rid of their quarterback. A lot of bad press regarding that. They released their starting safety that was a Pro Bowl safety in Justin Simmons. I can't really name many stars on this team that they have outside of Patrick Surtain, the second.
yeah,
Like the argument says, okay, Dan Campbell with Detroit, but Detroit's loaded, dude. Like they should be doing that, right?
right.
I don't think Denver should be as good as they are right now. But I don't know. Again, is it just smoke and mirrors? Like they've lost 5 games that you could assume they would lose, right? Seattle,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh, the Chargers,
they've
Ravens, and
lost to
Chiefs.
all. They've lost to all good teams, and
Yeah,
they've beat all the bad teams.
yeah. So I don't think it's something supernatural he's doing, but I also
No,
think he should be in consideration.
I agree. No, because nobody thought Denver was going to win more than 3 games this year,
No, no, I really
and like Bo Nix, like he's looked pretty decent.
he
Like,
has in a year under his belt. Well, he looks like he's 40 already, but another year under his belt,
like
like I feel like it's going to be good for him.
he came into the league and he was 35 years old already.
Yeah,
Like, good
I mean,
lord,
it's kind of funny. Him and Brock Bowers, right? They-
Jesus.
it's wild. All right, switching gears real quick. The Packers, they absolutely smashed the 49ers. I mean, is Brock Purdy that valuable to the 49ers that they can't seem to do anything without him?
You know, I'm glad that I'm out in Guillotine League because I don't have to worry about Debo Samuel anymore. I still have to worry about George Kittle
Who's been
on the Houston,
amazing this year. He's been
yeah, on the
incredible
Houston
this year.
Texans. But yeah, no, and this was a game too that like I think Green Bay had circled on their schedule. Like they lost a really tough game to them
Yeah.
in the playoffs where they probably should have won. And I think for them, this was okay, these guys are coming to our house. We're gonna beat the pants off of them. And
Yeah.
like
They did.
McCaffrey looks weird. I don't if you're gonna try to tell me that he's healthy, I'm not buying it. I'm just not. Like,
I hmm. It's not that I don't think he's healthy. It's that there's a lot of problems all throughout this team right now. All throughout this team.
like Trent Williams was out too.
Yeah,
That's
their path to the playoffs does not look good right now.
nope.
Uh,
No.
which is really unfortunate for a team that was that close to winning a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Luckily they play in a division that's kind of weird and like they still have a shot.
they do
Like,
because they're still going to have divisional games, and I mean that kind of segues into the next one, right? With Seattle and Arizona, but like
yeah.
it makes me wonder. Brandon Ayuk going down. I don't know. Debo doesn't
If
seem.
you told me after 11 games that San Francisco would be in last place in the NFC West, I would have been like, "What?
Yeah.
Like what
Okay.
you like
I'll take the bet on that. No way that's happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening in this universe?"
Yeah. I would have
But
said,
here we
okay,
are.
McCaffrey's out for the year, which he basically has been, or Purdy's out for the year. I would
Yeah.
have said one of those. But wild, man. Very wild times. Seattle, listen, they beat Arizona and that they regained the lead of the NFC West. Yeah, they're tied, but now they own the tiebreaker over them.
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting because Arizona went from being like third in the playoffs and having a home game to now they're from the outside looking in. Now, granted, I believe they're going to play Seattle again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
but it just
Yeah, they play them next week, actually. They play
yeah.
the Jets this week, and then they play the Cardinals again next week.
So yeah, if
So
they don't get it figured out, like that's going to be really tough. But that division is going to be one to keep an eye on. And the Rams are a good enough team. Yeah, they're not great, but they're a good enough team that they could play spoiler, and that could be tough
I'm
for
gonna
them.
say a thing. I've seen enough of the Rams to write them off.
Okay.
I have. Like, the Rams aren't. Yeah, I've seen enough to like hear me out. I watched them play the Patriots a couple weeks ago, and they should have beaten the brakes off of them, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. Like, they hung around on a Patriots team that has incredibly shitty coaching, and Drake May with no offensive line and no receivers.
Yeah,
Like,
don't forget that like people still think Aaron Donald plays for this team. Like
yeah,
Jared Verse has been awesome this year for them, by the way, as a rookie. Like he's done very, very well. And if he's not in the running for defensive rookie of the year, I don't even know what we're doing. But
that Eagles game the other night showed me that the Rams don't have an offensive line.
yeah,
And
which
like
is
they can't, like, Stafford's just gonna keep getting killed. And like that's
yeah, the
no,
Eagles are also
I'm out
catching
on them.
the Eagles are also catching fire. Also, you can't give up 10 yards a carry and 250 yards to one guy.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
just dude, like I remember tuning in and being like, all right, Saquon's got 140 yards right now on 10 carries. No, I'm sorry, on 14 carries. I'm like, okay, so he's averaging 10 yards a carry. That can't last.
No,
Oh,
it did.
oh, it did. They're just going to continue letting him run like that the rest of the game. I
Yep.
don't know, man. Listen, last night the Ravens they beat the Chargers and stuff. Just curious your thoughts on that. Nothing big we got to chat about, but
I love that John Harbaugh was like, you know what? He went for it at one point. He went for it on 4th and 1 from his own 16, and I was like, "Oh, you're playing your younger brother, and you want to rub his face in some dog
yeah.
shit." Okay, sure, I see what this is.
You're gonna lick
That was a weird
the
game.
white covered dog shit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I this didn't really tell me anything about this game. From either team.
yeah,
This was a okay, so the Chargers are still like this is very much they're still a year away.
yeah,
This kind of confirms that. They're going to make the playoffs probably. It's going to be a nice story. Cool. Um, and at this point, I don't really trust Baltimore. I just don't.
which
Like,
is so
I
funny that
know.
you're coming over to the other side now, right?
I
Like,
know.
I
They
mean,
they really they hurt me badly in that Steelers loss.
yeah,
They hurt me badly.
it
And
was a
I
wound.
can't recover from that.
Yeah, you got wounded.
I did. I did.
Uh,
Yeah. So
it's a tough thing to see, and I don't know, man. Like maybe now that snow's starting to hit in New England, Derrick Henry's going to start running the ball, but I don't know. The
yeah.
Chargers are a really tough team to run against as well. So
That was the one thing that I was really impressed with was they ran the ball down their throats
yeah,
last night.
yep,
Like, and that was the part that like shocked me, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
this is what we're doing. Okay,
Hmm.
cool.
Well, sometimes that
And
that happens. So it looks like J.K. Dobbins is actually banged up a bit.
saw that, and I was like, God, dude, that dude just can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
Like,
he made it a long time this year. I was wondering who was going to be the first to get kind of a lingering injury, whether it was him or Rashad
Gus
Bateman.
Edwards.
No, Gus Bus, I like him, man. But
Yeah,
I thought maybe Rashad Bateman from Baltimore, like those two guys, him and J.K. Dobbins. I can't touch either one of them, not in
yeah,
fantasy. So,
yeah.
speaking of fantasy, uh,
Bad week for you.
yeah,
Bad week
we
for
could
you.
skip over this part. We don't have
No,
to.
no. Let's talk. Let's just talk about it for a minute.
All right, so
Let's talk about it for a minute.
I lost to you,
Yeah.
in one of the leagues. It
Mhm.
was not a good week at all in fantasy. Like I've had 2
And
weeks
you
in a
put up
row.
in the Bennett League, you put up points this week.
Yeah, like this is the frustrating piece. Like I'm not gonna pull the oh I scored the second most points in the league and still lost. Like whatever, dude. Like that's gonna happen. Some weeks are gonna be your week, some aren't. but I'm on
Sure.
a 2 week, like I had multiple weeks at the beginning of the season where I was just like, dude, I won in every league. Won in every
Yeah,
league. Won in
I
every league.
remember.
And now the last 2 weeks I've lost in every league, and I've seen my leads in those leagues shrink. And in the Bennett League, I really needed to win. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of teams in there that really need to win. Um, but I lost, and I'm fairly certain like my avenue into the playoffs is almost non-existent now.
Well, in the Bennett League, you have at this point you need to win out and you need some help.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I will
Yeah.
say that your ascension in the Bennett League, there needs to be a case study on this, followed by like a Netflix docu series
Yeah.
about that, because it's
We
been a rise
we
from the
started
ashes.
we started 0-5 and we're 6-6 right now, and I need to win out.
Yeah,
I need to win out, and I think I might need a little bit of help. But yeah, I need to win out. And like one of the teams that I need to beat next week is a team that's also 6-6. This week I play our friend John Lacasse, who has Saquon Barkley, so a little
yeah,
nervous. A
yeah.
little nervous.
Just hope that he doesn't continue on the trend that he has been going on.
Yeah.
Um, but also
Yeah.
like, listen, and I can deal with losing to you like that. That's dealable, right? Like
Sure.
respect across the board. What I
Yeah.
can't deal with is this little Nancy of this Karen of an uncle that I have that is
Yeah. Let's
just,
talk about that for a minute.
yeah. So like he beat me in our league that we have, my other league, and I crushed him the first week of the season. Like it
Mm,
was really bad. Like so bad that I thought like maybe he would just uninstall the app and like not do it. And
yeah.
my dad told me to change his team name this week. Not going to tell you what I changed it to, but it's not appropriate for podcasts.
Sure.
But he changed it back to something not appropriate for podcasts.
I'm
But
gonna ask you this question the minute we stop recording. I
yeah,
need you to
yeah,
know
yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of funny, but my dad had something to do with it. So just to throw that out
And
there.
also
But
for some clarification about your uncle Roger. Um, he is your dad's brother, and your uncle Roger. The Turkey trip last year when you got married, he was the MVP of that trip for me. The time that he showed up, it was a different vibe, and man, he was the vibe that I never like because I had never really met your uncle Roger, and
yeah,
he was a vibe that I just wanted to spend about 6 more days with, just
yeah.
hanging out and doing weird things.
Not
Like,
not to mention like how he arrived was I went downstairs with my sister, and
yeah,
we kind of planned it so that like we came back up and we were at a restaurant, and we found out he was there downstairs, and so I went down, and we decided it would be a good idea to tell my dad that his brother was getting arrested in Turkey.
oh, I
And
wish
so
that I
that
had
was
filmed
his
your dad's
introduction.
reaction because it was an all-time reaction from your dad. It
Yeah.
was it was everything you ever could have wanted. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
not really the
So,
best thing kids should give to their parents. Almost a heart attack regarding that, but very interesting. But needless to say,
yeah.
in terms of fantasy, Roger has tried to rub it in. Unlike, and the worst thing was, I actually mentioned this kind of in passing to him a few weeks ago that like
Mhm.
and I feel like I spoke it into existence that like, oh yeah, I beat him week one, but wouldn't it be funny if I lost to him this week, or I beat him this week and then I lose to him in the first round of the playoffs, and then like this is what's happened. So I'm very concerned about what's going to happen going forward.
And your
Um,
uncle Roger was an early elimination in our guillotine league.
oh, he was very early.
Yeah,
Which I, by the way, I'm still alive in. So, alive
I
and
know.
and getting better by the minute.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Hopefully next week we have the same attitude, but it could be bad. So,
yeah. No, we're grinding right now, and for us, the one league left that I'm in, the Bennett League, like this is my first year in that league, and it's a league that I hold in very high regard. So I'm just trying to make my mark, and
do Jason proud.
yep,
He's
yep,
looking he's
I
looking
would,
at me
yep,
shaking his head right now saying like, "What's scum? What are
yep,
you doing?"
yep,
Um, but
yep. And again, in fantasy, you just got to make it to the playoffs, and then
yeah.
that's when things can get weird.
Anything can happen. I mean, you know
Yep.
that. Most New England Patriot fans know that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I think that's it for this week.
All
So
right.
we can wrap up, but we will be back next week, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Giving
yep.
you guys
Next week's a
some,
regular week.
yeah, some week 13 coverage. A little bit longer today, but we wanted to cover the baseball awards and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we will be back next week to give you guys a little more fun. So
yeah.
Al,
Uh, yeah. Hey, I love you. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there that celebrates.
yeah, be safe
Yeah,
this week. Have a very safe week, guys. And
yeah,
after a day of being very thankful, make sure you go out and show your greed on
yeah.
Friday. So
And honestly, right now the over under sitting at me eating 3.5 pounds of turkey for Thanksgiving. Take the over.
and
Take the over.
and falling asleep in less than 6 minutes. So
Oh,
uh
take the over.
yeah,
Just it just bet everything you own on the over. I'm
yeah,
telling you.
I got it. All right, guys. Well, Al, love you, bro.
All right,
Peace.
I love you too. Peace.